do you think is going to win? First of all, can we talk about the China-Russia component? Okay, so what's going on there? We've got these SMRs which people are offering into places in Africa. We'll build it, we will run it, and we'll have long-term contracts with you. That helps countries like that. You've got all sorts of PPP models. How is China and Russia making it difficult for America to get back onto the platform?
Well, first of all, let's talk about the Russian side, which is again very complicated, very very long history. There's in fact the suspension agreement, which affected the amount of Russian nuclear fuel that could be imported to the U.S., which has been in place in various forms since 1992 or three, and it's now being reviewed once again. What we're seeing, I think, with China and Russia is some competition on a geopolitical front. In other words, they're very active in marketing export reactors. Now, to do that, as you point out, they not only provide the reactor itself, they provide the fuel, they take it away. So if you approach a country such as South Africa or Saudi Arabia, I know the Russians are talking to the Saudis right now. Once you put a reactor somewhere, 60 to 80-year life. So it's an interesting geopolitical issue, which is quite complicated. But what happened with the Russians is they sold a lot of uranium after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. And so right now, the one part that is a challenge to them is uranium. So that's why they're getting active again in Central Asia. They have their own uranium production. They have a proposed mine in Tanzania. So the Russians, actually, I've heard, are, quote, short uranium for domestic uses, for export reactors. And so they're being much more cautious on some of their sales, but they have a lot of enrichment capacity.
Right.
And so that's what they're selling into the U.S. So that's kind of the Russian story. Now, the Chinese is different. They've been stockpiling uranium to support their own program, but at times they do sell into like the United States. But they've not, been a big factor in the export market. They're producing in Namibia. They have domestic production. They have long-term contracts to buy in Australia and Canada. So they're really more in a stockpiling mode to support their really significant growth in reactor build.
But right, okay. I mean that's the component. So you're saying there's a business component to this, but there's also this geopolitical component, which basically means control. Especially with 60, 80-year contracts, you have control over that country's energy needs, and that's a problem. That's a problem for U.S. companies, right?
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. companies, first of all, we had a number of reactor manufacturers back in the 70s and 80s.
Westinghouse.
And now, officially General Electric, Hitachi, and Westinghouse, Toshiba are still in the business. General Electric has kind of really wound down their reactor business. So we're left with Westinghouse, which is effectively controlled by the Japanese. So when you look at some of these projects, the Russians and the Chinese will come in, and not only do they offer the reactor and the ancillary services, they will finance it. Yep. So they will provide the necessary capital. So the U.S., Westinghouse has been at a real disadvantage in some of these countries. Now they've been successful in China, and because China wanted some of all of the technologies, so they've done that. But yeah, you need Exim Bank financing. So it's much more complicated, where it's because Westinghouse is not a state-owned entity like the exports of Russia and China.
Yeah. So I think it's a all-in solution. It's a one package product. You go to the whoever's running the country, and you say, I can give you whatever 10-20% of your energy needs, like that.
big part of them, yes.
Yeah,
And I've heard that they'll just send a bill.
right.
We've produced X amount of energy, you pay your annual bill, and we take care of everything else.
Yeah.
So it can be attractive to some of the countries, the smaller countries in particular.
I've seen that with hydroelectric in Asia as well. The same sort of package product. It makes it a lot easier. You pay over a 40-year contract. So is there some degree of frustration with the American companies that countries like France or Germany or Australia kind of aren't towing the sort of traditional party line of, we're going to side with the US here. Everyone's got their own business interests at heart here.
Yeah.
And, that doesn't necessarily help in terms of the entente cordiale. And we do see it in other areas, obviously with what's going on in Iran at the moment as well. So there's, America was a powerhouse when they spoke, people listened. But do you think that's not happening anymore?
Well, that's one of the topics that it came up actually quite recently, that if you don't have a robust nuclear industry domestically, you really start to lose any leverage internationally. Let's pick on South Korea, which was successful in getting a 4-reactor package in the Emirates, which the reactors are starting to come on, but they have a phase out program in South Korea. Now it will go for many decades, but it's just like Japanese exports of nuclear technology or equipment. When you're in not a phase out, but let's just say they continue to struggle to bring on more reactors, you kind of lose that leverage where you've got the Russians and the Chinese, the French to a more limited degree doing export reactors. They've got a lot more say than if, we don't have the products or the services, but listen to what we tell you. So
yeah. I appreciate that it's a difficult space and difficult time for some of the US players at the moment. So if we may come on to the public companies, the producers, developers, and explorers. Now, mining's a tough space, full stop, okay?
Yes.
But mining uranium, you've got that added emotive content of, because of the association with nuclear, people in countries like Spain make things difficult for, I won't mention names, but we know who we're talking about, and all over the world where this nuclear component is slightly misunderstood by some, and yes, others will tell you that it's zero carbon and it's the solution. Bill Gates putting $1 billion of his own money into this, so you've got polarizing views, I guess is what I'm coming at. So how do the companies, the main players being Kazatomprom, Cameco, and then a kind of handful of others in production, and then a bunch of explorers in the world. Let's not forget, this is mining, because we always forget. We get so excited about talking about uranium, we forget it's mining with its usual mining problems, finding it, digging it out of the ground economically, producing it, selling it in a market which may or may not be receptive to it in terms of spot price. So can we start with Kazatomprom and Cameco? Are they influencing or controlling price at the moment? Because I know Cameco is trying to find £9 million to fulfill orders for this year alone. So
exactly.
What are they thinking?
Actually, much more than that. Yeah, I think that, and first of all, let's focus on Cameco because they are a Western company, very large producer, made up of 2 government organizations in the long past. I think what happened there, was certainly on the Cameco side, and it was a big surprise, I think, to the industry when they decided to put McArthur River on care and maintenance, which was producing 18 million pounds a year in a 160 million pound production scenario, and say they're going to buy. And they've been very public to say we are trying to get the price up. So are they manipulating? No, they're basically just saying we're going to retard available supply, and even better, because we have long-term contract commitments, we're going to become a buyer in the market. Now, there is on the Kazakh side, there was a World Nuclear Fuel Market meeting going on in Lisbon as we speak. And yesterday they made a presentation, and part of the feedback I got was they said the price is too low. So, I mean, they're publicly stating the price is too low. They've cut back production, from what they had planned to do. So, yeah, these are two big producers that are attempting to, we don't like manipulate, to try to influence the price so they can, stay in economic production. Because right now, if you look at the spot price, more than half the world production is uneconomic.
Sure.
So now, fortunately for the utilities, quite a bit of it is state-owned, be it China, be it, Kazatomprom, which is now kind of a split between public and private. So, it's pretty clear the prices have to be higher in order for production to go forward, or restarts, and certainly new mines, which everyone pretty well recognizes need to be built. There's no question you need new capacity. As older mines like Ranger in Australia, Rossing looks like it may get a bit more life because it's being purchased by the Chinese. But yeah, $25. That's why, again, most of the producers have longer term contracts at much higher prices.